Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Find Out podcast. You've got a trio today. With me it's Luke and Chris, and we are obviously going to continue to talk about the news around the assassination of Charlie Kirk. We now have the shooter is now in custody. He is not cooperating, so information is not coming out a lot, which is allowing a lot of rumors to spread around, and also, starting to see the right do what they always do, which is casting blame on Democrats and the left, even though there was zero evidence of anyone doing anything. So what we want to do here is we want to dig into this a little bit more and, be very clear that we are all horrified at the murder of Charlie Kirk. But we also think it's important to tell you all who this person was. Because we're seeing a lot of people on the right comparing him to, I don't know, MLK, who, by the way, Charlie Kirk didn't like, and, lionizing him. We're seeing moments of silence at Dallas Cowboys games and a couple other stadiums this weekend. And I think people just don't know who this is. So we really need to talk about it, because it feels like it's spiraling a bit out of control, and the right keeps pointing at us, but we're not really doing anything. So I think we need to dive into this a little bit. So we're going to do that. We probably won't be super long today, but thought this was important context as this conversation continues and shows no signs of slowing down anytime soon. I think our next shows will go back to normal, but we really need to put this out there, and then maybe we can start moving on. But Chris, I want to go to you first. So obviously we've seen the right do what they always do, which is to blame Democrats, even though when you ask them for evidence, there's absolutely nothing. So what have you seen? Like, we recorded, I think we did do Wednesday night. So we did Wednesday night. So now there have been 4 or 5 full days that have gone past. What are you seeing? Are you surprised? Not surprised? Where do we go from here?
Yeah, so this weekend, the governor of Utah,
we did Wednesday night,
state where Charlie Kirk was murdered, came on to meet the press and said that the killer was radicalized by leftist ideology. He did not elaborate. He did not present any evidence, but he made the claim, and that was enough to end up in headlines. Major papers reported on that as fact. Other talking heads on every television show that covers the news have repeated that. We do not know what the ideology of the shooter was. We do not know what the motivation was. I suspect that it is more likely than not that this shooter who murdered Charlie Kirk in cold blood was motivated by elements of what we normally consider the far right. Now, the right, broadly speaking, the Fox Newses of the world, have identified the alleged shooter's alleged partner as a trans woman who's beginning her transition into becoming a woman, as evidence that the shooter is a leftist. But the crazy subculture that these incel gamer types come from hate women to the extent that some of them would prefer to be with a trans woman than a biological woman. That sounds crazy, but we should keep in mind that a crazy right-wing trans woman just shot up a church not long ago because she was influenced by a neo-Nazi cult that engages in pedophilia. That is the world we fucking live in today. That, like, everything that I just said sounded absurd as shit, but unfortunately the fringes of the internet that have existed in for a decade
ridiculous.
plus,
it's fucking
and really
insane.
Like have grown in the last decade plus, are starting to spill over into the real world. These nihilistic fascists, anarchists, whatever you want to call them, these people who believe that the world must be more broken because they are personally miserable, that population has grown. Yeah. And we all have to deal with it. That is the reality that we live in.
Yeah, it's funny because I saw a video this weekend basically saying what you we're saying here, which is that in that Groyper movement, which is the extreme right wing that is theoretically or like loosely led by this guy, Nick Fuentes, do have a preference for trans women, which it was an interesting thing to hear. I think that the thing that bothers me about this discourse is that the right has been trying to vilify trans people for years now.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, as you pointed out last week, in the the final words that Charlie Kirk was saying was spreading a false lie about the trans community. And somehow that whole network of right-wing commentators have basically told their folks that trans people are committing mass shootings at a crazy high rate. But when you do your research and you look, what I found, and I think this is the standard, that what people have been talking about, is that of the last 4,000 mass shootings, do you know how many have been committed by a trans person? Luke, you got it right? Five. And when you factor in the amount of the US population that are trans, it's not even like, yup, that's what we would expect. It's lower than would be expected based on the amount of mass shootings that we have in this country and based on the demographics of who commits them, which, by the way, guess who mostly commits mass shootings? Young white men. But they have convinced people that they don't. And I think what we're seeing,
know how? It's because of people like Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because he died while mischaracterizing statistics. The question he was asked prior to being shot was, how many mass shootings were perpetrated by trans folks? And instead of answering the question like he knew the fucking answer, he said the words, too many. Right. Instead of saying 5, instead of saying this percent, he said too many. Because to people who don't fucking know anything, all they hear is that's them. It's the trans people. They're the ones doing it. And that's how it happens. That's how people have this fucking idea.
Well, and this was his trick in debating college. First of all, he was always debating college students. This guy who runs this like multi-million-dollar organization chose his like everybody debate me who's 20. And like he was a master at deflection, right? Too many. The answer too many is actually right? Because one is too many. But when you don't put it in context, he's making you think it's tens, hundreds, or thousands, or whatever. That trans people are the boogeyman, instead of who mostly it is white, right-leaning men,
look just like the guy who shot him.
Right. So
allegedly.
Well, yeah. I think they have a confession, though he's not cooperating with authorities, which honestly is making this situation worse because there's no information coming out, and the
Tuesday
right is
supposed to be some information
tomorrow. Well, we're recording on Monday at 4:15 Eastern, so maybe tomorrow there'll be some more information that comes out. But I think what's really concerned me in all of this is just how angry everybody on the right is at Democrats. But yet when you ask them, okay, who is celebrating this death? They don't answer. And this is the quote unquote genius of the right, is that they have figured out a way to make people feel things that are not real. They're just not, right? Like there is no, like, the majority of political violence in this country, the overwhelming majority of political violence, which has been studied over and over again, is on the right. And I have asked several of people that I've grown up with to just Google it. Just Google it. Don't take my word for it. They will not do it. Which, Chris, you're kind of you are an expert in this world. Like, how do they do that? And like, what do we do about this? Because this is a tipping point. It feels like right now the country's on fire.
Yeah. So
what do we do?
The right, and I mean this all encompassingly, like the entire right. I'm not talking about the far right. I'm talking about people who lean right, libertarian types. They often use this phrase, and I think Ben Shapiro like really brought it to prominence, was facts don't care about your feelings. But if we hold up a mirror and we simply say, I am going to quote Charlie Kirk verbatim, and we say, we give a racist or a misogynist quote, people go, oh, that's in poor taste. You're not supposed to talk ill of the dead. No, I'm honoring
or
Kirk's
it's out of
memory.
Context.
I'm honoring
spreading his
Kirk's
message.
life by
There's a reason.
just simply repeating the words that the man said when he was alive.
There's a reason that when they talked about them, when they covered him, and they brought people on to talk about what a good person he was, and they all talked about these charming little anecdotes that have no proof. They never attached clips of tweets or clips of him talking or clips of him debating. None of that. It was all.
And we've seen virtually every talking head on cable television talking about how Charlie Kirk was a champion of free speech. The very opposite is true. Yeah. Few people in mainstream cable television, I'm not going to condemn the entire media, right? I feel like that's a little irresponsible, but most of the commentators that I see on cable television or journalists like Jake Tapper, someone who I know and respect, are going out and talking about Charlie Kirk. And Ezra Klein put in the pages of the New York Times about how Charlie Kirk was doing politics right. No, Charlie Kirk maintained a website for over 10 years called the Professor Watch List, where without notice, professors anywhere in this country could end up on a list that would make them receive death threats, that their families would be intimidated. Families were destroyed over the cost of being on Charlie Kirk's list. And what was the crime? It was the teachers were teaching about things like racism or anti-racism or gender studies or feminism. They were teaching the history of the Civil War as it actually happened, not through the lens of a PragerU propaganda video. Their only crime was keeping an engaged student body. But Charlie Kirk knew that he couldn't engage in a good faith discussion. He knew that if he engaged in a fair debate and he didn't use logical fallacies, he would always fucking lose. And that is why he put a hit list online that today has, I believe, well over 800 professors who are simply there, often because they are black or brown or a member of the LGBTQ community or a woman, or teach about any of those groups. That is the only reason that they were targeted, because Charlie Kirk decided that ruining their life was good business for him. That is who Charlie Kirk was in life.
It was good business. He made millions of dollars doing it.
Yeah. And he had right-wing billionaires fund the entire thing. They just threw money at him because they knew that with bigoted policies, with an effort to shape culture, these billionaires are eventually going to get their tax breaks. If they can whip people into a frenzy of fear and anger, which is what the Republican Party is most effective at, and they describe their campaign tactics this way. I'm not putting words in their mouth. That's how they say they motivate young white men. Lindsey Graham said that we're not producing enough angry white men in this country to keep Republicans in power. That's what he said after Obama won. Right. That's who this party is and always has been, long before fucking Trump was part of the picture.
Oh,
so Charlie Kirk facilitated that. He facilitated a machine that would generate ignorant, angry, aggrieved young white men, which, yes, in the future would go on to vote for billionaires' tax breaks, but also would break out the other way and start killing people. And we have had a bunch of mass shootings where these mass shooters credit their radicalization to Charlie Kirk and his far-right nemesis, Nick Fuentes. Who,
boy, did he not like talking about that, though.
Yeah,
I saw him turn like 4 people away.
Right? Those two, were enemies. They were competitors, but they were symbiotic because their project together was to drag the entire country to the right, and they were both moving in the same direction. Yeah.
They did. You know something interesting that I saw? That because I thought for a minute that there would be this long, drawn out right-wing response, and I think that's going to not happen. I think that in 2 weeks they'll have forgotten about him, and it's evident. I mean, Trump literally diverted from a question about how he felt about Charlie being dead to look at the ballroom. We've started construction on the ballroom. And Steven Crowder changed his Twitter bio from #2 political right-leaning podcast to #1 political podcast, right-wing leaning podcast. They don't give a fuck. They don't give a fuck.
It wasn't even a day. I mean, it's similar. It was similar to Donald Trump on 9/11, the actual day, 9/11, 24 years ago, talking about how he now had the tallest building in Lower Manhattan. People were still jumping out of buildings. They had not, we thought there were like 30, 40,000 deaths at that point. And this fucker was on TV bragging about having the tallest, but he doesn't care about anybody ever. If you can't have empathy on 9/11, right? Like if you can't have empathy on 9/11, and like I was on 701 Pennsylvania Avenue in 9/11. So like it hits a little differently for me, but like you watching like people jumping out of buildings, hitting people on the ground as well. And there's this famous photo of a chaplain that was near retirement. And there's a photo of them pulling this guy out because he had been killed by a jumper. And Donald Trump is on TV talking about how tall that he had the tallest building.
I have the second tallest one, or I have the tallest one now.
And Crowder, all these people are the same. None of this is actually about their beliefs. It's all about power and it's all about money. You know, there's an article in the Times today that talks about how Trump has essentially been enriching himself. He's gained about $3 billion in worth since he's been president. Mm-hmm. $3 billion? How did that happen?
And the Trump family is at like 7.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all of this stuff. I mean, in the first term, he made any foreign dignitaries that wanted to meet with him stay at Trump Hotel right across the street.
These people are not about the greater good. They're all about the greater grift.
No,
I mean, look no further than the fucking give, send, go for Charlie's funeral. Fucking ridiculousness.
Charlie was
multi-millionaire.
Charlie was worth somewhere in the $12 to $15 million range. And they set up a GoFundMe. Like, I'm sorry.
Raised like $5 million.
Right.
Key point. I mean, it's not a GoFundMe.
No, it's a GoFundMe.
It's a give, send, go.
Oh, it is a give, send, go?
It's a give, send, go.
Yeah, which is the favorite of the right. That's where that woman who shouted the N-word at the little child got like $800,000 or $900,000 for her legal bills.
Fucking Jubilee got all his money.
Yep.
Because they don't have rules there.
So I want to say one thing that I thought was really funny this weekend. There is this woman, Molly Hemingway, who is a right-wing hack. And she was on Fox, or she was talking to somebody on Twitter, and she was like, we need to push for 50% of all college professors to be conservative.
I saw this, yeah.
Do you know what that would be? That would be DEI. The thing they don't want. Diversity, equity, and inclusion.
DEI for me, but not for thee.
Somebody pointed it out to her. She goes, no, not like that. It's like these people just...
They're this close to the point.
Well, but also like they just live in hypocrisy because they know there are no consequences because they have managed to convince 40% of the population that whatever they say is right and whatever we say is wrong.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about consequences. So in just the last few hours, J.D. Vance, the vice president of the United States, was a guest host on Charlie Kirk's show.
Where he admitted to yelling at his wife and says that good husbands do that.
Which
what?
Yep.
What?
He said, yeah, I saw that in between.
Vance did?
Vance said that he could not say that he had never raised his voice at his wife, and that even good husbands do that.
I mean, I just don't raise my voice ever.
It's quite a stance to take. Just like Trump saying that, domestic violence is not really a crime. If we brought cops to every time a wife called the cops on a husband, it would be crazy. Yeah. Ugh, fucking people.
So while that guy had discount Goebbels, Jeff Miller not Jeff Miller, sorry, Steve Miller as a guest on Charlie Kirk's show, they talked about how they are going to persecute the left. They described the left broadly, Democrats, leftists, liberals, as a domestic terrorist organization. And we are about to feel the consequences of November's election, in that we, the three of us co-hosts, are very likely to be individually targeted. I, as the leader of two nonprofits, which are focused on tracking like swastika flying neo-Nazis. I am on, I know I'm on the list. I've been targeted by the Daily Caller, which was started by Tucker Carlson. I've been targeted by people who currently work in senior, deputy secretary levels of the State Department. The shit's about to get real, guys. Like, it's the hurt is fucking coming. And the reason is because Democrats didn't learn that we need to associate negative behavior with costs. That is, the fact that we had a felon run for president and win a free and fair election while he was very clearly guilty of inciting an insurrection that resulted in several deaths. That is crazy. That is crazy that Democrats were just like, not going to look at history, not going to look at like Hitler and the failed beer hall putsch where they tried to take over Germany the first time, but the Nazis failed. So they all went to jail and then they came back and they took over the fucking country. And then the Holocaust happened. Democrats were like, history never rhymes. We're not going to learn from it at all. Fuck it. Let's just let this fucking monster just do whatever the fuck he wants, raise billions of dollars, engage in wanton corruption so that he can get into power, dismantle our democracy from the inside, rip up the Constitution, and persecute Americans for their political beliefs.
Well, we did have MSNBC fire Matthew Dowd.
Yeah, and they just fired the lady.
And then they fired Karen Otta
from the WAPO.
From Washington Post for accurately pointing out that Charlie Kirk was not a good guy.
Yeah. And meanwhile, Fox News host Brian Kilmeade, is that the one?
Yep.
He advocated for, quote, involuntary lethal injection, aka mass murder of people who are unhoused.
He added that to that, just kill him.
Yeah, just kill him.
Like, what is hypocrisy is never going to surprise me, right?
I've said it before, but I'm pretty sure we might just be in the ninth circle of hell. I think whatever I did in a past life, I really fucked around.
Yep.
Because fucking hell.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the Fox News, the whole empire of Fox News is based on this faux patriotism where they are so sensitive to like Colin Kaepernick kneeling was the worst thing in the fucking world, right? Disrespect, any perceived disrespect towards troops or veterans, disrespect towards the commander in chief, Donald Trump, who's a,
but those things don't overlap though, because
monster,
the commander in chief is allowed to make fun of the armed forces. He can call them suckers and losers, and anybody who got captured is a loser. And then he's
Brian
allowed to say that.
Comes on and talks about just murdering all of the homeless people in the United States. Like, there's like a significant percentage, not the majority or anything like that, but a significant percentage of the homeless population in the United States are veterans,
right?
Who like our country has failed. So Brian Kilmeade is on Fox News on one of their biggest shows. He is one of their biggest stars.
The White House hiring pool.
Yeah, dude is advocating for genocide against American veterans, and the Fox News audience again. I should never be surprised by their hypocrisy. The Fox News audience is just like, fuck all veterans. Brian Kilmeade says, fuck vets. I hate vets too.
The other two co-hosts, I watched a clip earlier today. They didn't even flinch.
Yeah,
they didn't flinch.
It
was like, but don't say that Charlie Kirk had abhorrent views. Like, and I think this is a good moment. I want to read, because I don't think, again, I think we know a lot of people don't know Charlie Kirk. So I want to read some comments that he made. These are in The Guardian, so you know where I'm getting them from. And they're all sourced. On race, if I see a black pilot, I'm going to be like, boy, I hope he's qualified. That's one. If you're a WNBA pot-smoking black lesbian, do you get treated better than a United States Marine? Here's a good one. Happening all the time in urban America. Prowling blacks go around for fun to go target white people. That's a fact. It's happening more and more.
Happened.
Here's another great one. If I'm dealing with somebody in customer service who's a moronic black woman, I wonder if she's there because of her excellence or if she's there because of affirmative action. That is just a couple. And then also, he said of gay people, in response to the YouTuber Miss Rachel, which you have children, you know who Miss Rachel is, for
Fucking
quoting "Love Your
awesome
Neighbor"
lady.
to defend celebrating Pride Month, Charlie Kirk quoted a Bible verse used to justify stoning gay people to death. Kirk called the stoning verse God's perfect law when it comes to sexual matters. The guy was a racist, misogynistic, transphobic
Just put any ist and he was there. Any ist at the beginning. He was there. Yep. Racist, misogynist.
Yeah. Yep. And we have, I was taken a little aback by the sheer number of people who were defending him. I heard people this weekend calling him a good Christian, which I guess from the white evangelical
perspective.
I thought I'm going to tattoo a cross on my fucking forehead and just, and I'll, I guess, be able to do anything.
You are immune.
That's it. I'm immune from criticism.
I think there is something to be said. That I have come across a couple people in day-to-day life that after this happened who had no idea about any of that. They had never seen any of those videos. They'd never seen any of. They'd seen clips of him talking at commencement speeches where he talks about glory to God and blah blah blah, and clips of him talking about how, well, if you value God and you go through life, things will work out for you. And I think it's really important to point that out because there are people that just did not fucking know. And it's the way the media is, I guess, but like, not everybody was buying into him because he was that way.
No, but I do think that, I think you're right.
It's fucking vital to point out that that's what it is.
Well, I had one person on my feed say, I think he's a good Christian. He was a good family man. And don't bother putting any of these quotes in here because I'm not going to.
Those people can get fucked.
Right. I mean, look, it is the, there is elements of white supremacy in this, right? Yeah. If you are a white male in certain segments of the United States, you can do whatever you want. And you're seeing, that is a lot of what we're seeing. Some of it's, like you said, Luke, like people just didn't know. And that's fair. But the people who did know, they're just, white men are allowed to do whatever they want. Black people, trans people, brown people, anyone else, we are going to hold you to a higher standard than we hold white men. And that's the way it's been the entire...
Your rights are for debate because a white man has never lost a fucking right in this country since its inception. And now everything else is up for debate. So like...
Well, did you see that they want to propose allowing Marco Rubio to basically take away people's visas if they said negative things about Charlie Kirk?
Or if they're pro-Palestine. Yep.
Or if they're... Now... I thought these were the Constitution-loving guys.
Constitutional fundamentalist free speech lovers.
Right? Until it's against them.
Yep.
Right? There was no issue with making fun of former Speaker Hortman's murder.
Or Joe Biden's cancer diagnosis. Or Paul Pelosi.
Paul Pelosi. Charlie Kirk said of that any good red-blooded American would bail out the guy who smashed him in the head with a hammer. So when I hear all these people saying, oh, like you guys are monsters for talking about Charlie Kirk, I'm like, well, why was that okay? Why that guy, Paul Pelosi was lucky he didn't die or suffer severe brain injury. He got hit in the head with a hammer because of what the right has been like vilifying Nancy Pelosi, who's by far the best speaker that we've had in 50, 60, 70 years. Like they vilified her because she was a liberal woman from San Francisco. And so it was like the perfect villain for them. And then some crazy guy goes in with a fucking hammer when she's not even home, like she's still in DC, and attacks her even older than she is husband. That was fine because white guys are allowed to do it. And we don't want to have that conversation, but it's true.
So one of the things that friends of mine are getting pissed at me on Facebook for is talking about, while we don't know that the shooter was indeed a Groyper, I personally, as someone who studies these people and has followed them closely for years, both the Kirk organization and Nick Fuentes' America First organization, I think that the shooter, for the little that is known, does fit the bill for a Groyper. People are getting mad at me on Facebook because I'm simply talking about the history of Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes and how Nick Fuentes has been harassing Charlie Kirk for years to try to push him and his organization right. How Nick Fuentes has been sending his minions, which he does have pretty close control over, into Charlie Kirk's organization to take it over democratically, to start and run and be elected for chapter leadership of Turning Point USA. And that's how they're turning Charlie Kirk's empire that these billionaires bought into a machine that is made of neo-Nazis. And I'm not exaggerating. I'm not using hyperbolic language.
No, they're like legit Nazis, anti-Jew Nazis.
These people are just absolute fucking monsters. And we reached a point years ago where groypers, these Nick Fuentes followers, these people who believe that we should commit genocide as state policy here in the United States, that it should be a white nation. The only way you achieve a white nation is either shipping everyone out or murdering them, right? Anyone who calls themselves a white nationalist is pro-genocide here in the United States. So let's establish that, right? There are groypers who have been openly working for Representative Paul Gosar for 4+ fucking years. And nobody in Congress, none of the Republicans in Congress, no one who's influenced by Charlie Kirk, he's such a fucking good guy, he's creating the conservative youth movement. No one has taken Paul Gosar aside in the Republican machine and said, you can't have fucking neo-Nazis working in your congressional office. That's crossing the line, right? So Charlie Kirk and Nick Fuentes, though they had their little squabbles, they were perfectly aligned in building a pipeline for fucking neo-Nazis to get into the halls of power. And now Nick Fuentes' allies, like Laura Loomer, again, people who are pro-genocide here in the United States, have regular access to not just the White House, but the president of the United States. And now,
interesting that she took down her post where she was attacking Charlie Kirk. Laura Loomer, that is.
Yeah, funny how that works, huh?
Shocker.
Fuentes and Loomer had been for weeks calling Charlie Kirk a fascist
because he wanted the Epstein files released.
They were using that. They were using that deliberately, right? That word deliberately.
Mm-hmm.
When I use the term fascist, I'm being literal. I mean, these people subscribe to fascist ideology, whether they know it or not. Like, if you meet the tenets of fascism, you are a fascist, right? These people are calling Charlie Kirk a fascist to otherize him, to undermine his control of the conservative youth movement so that it could be infiltrated with actual fascists, with these groypers, these incels, these people who have developed such antisocial behaviors that they are nihilists, and they want to see not just the project of America fail, but the project of democracy fail, the project of self-determination and freedom, not just freedom in the abstract sense, but freedom from violence and freedom from disease and starvation and all of the things that come with being a civilization.
Well, isn't that one of the reasons why people sort of pointed to the shooter being a groyper, because he put that fascist, he wrote something like fascist ha or something like that on a casing, right?
He wrote "Hey Fascist Catch." So most of all of the engravings that he put on these bullets are kind of obscure memes. They are these hyper online memes, which again, right, I am not saying definitively is absolutely associated with the right or absolutely associated with the groypers. That is the community that these things are most associated with, but there are extremist elements that go in every fucking direction. It's not a spectrum, right? There are so many motivations for these types of nihilists. And I think that this shooter is a lot like the shooter from Butler, Pennsylvania, who tried to assassinate Trump last year. I think they are just people who are they're accelerationists. Their desire is to cause a maximum amount of chaos and damage and carnage, because their idea, they don't have this like idea of the Civil War of someone winning on their side. They want to cause mass death and destruction. That is their motivating factor. There is no ends. There is no other side of the Civil War. The Civil War is the ends. The violence is the ends.
Well, on that note, can we address the gibberish in the room? which is old Venmo Patel's statement.
Yeah.
For fuck's sake.
Why you want to take a lead on that one?
Yeah, he was talking about Kirk and said
we're talking about Kash Patel, the FBI director, by
Yeah.
the way.
Something along the lines of, we have the watch now, I'll see you in Valhalla.
Yeah, what is that?
What in the fuck is that? I know what it means. I've played God of War. I know what that means. But a governmental official said that.
Yeah.
Fuck.
I don't know what religion Kash Patel practices, but I don't think that it's Nordic paganism.
I'm pretty sure it's not. I'm like 99% sure it's not.
But what this is him trying to
fucking cosplay. Yeah,
he's trying to
cosplay
as a veteran.
Look at me. I'm Mr. Podcast Man, and now I'm I'm going to see you in Valhalla because we waded through all the blood and shit together. It's fucking ridiculous. It is fucking ridiculous. I saw an AI. It's the only time I've ever approved of AI. Somebody used AI to make a video of him standing in full Norse battle gear. Fucking amazing.
So for years before most people knew who Kash Patel was, I was doing things like going to QAnon conferences organized by disgraced former general and convicted felon Mike Flint, who, by the way, still is my Facebook friend.
I love that you keep saying it, and like
even years, nothing changes. He's still my Facebook friend, and so is most of his family because they're all fucking idiots. So I wish that more Americans, as dangerous as these things are, were exposed to these QAnon conferences. I mean, they exist online. Like, they record these 14 to 16 hour days of curated shit going on these stages. Kash Patel walked onto the same stage as a recently retired quack doctor who served in the military, who was talking about encouraging people to, quote, I'm using air quotes here, invest in precious metals. And his laugh line was,
oh my God,
instead of gold and silver, he's talking about lead and brass, as in ammunition. Like, these guys have been talking about getting armed for the coming civil war and a global war. And Kash Patel, now fucking FBI director, was Senate confirmed. And not one fucking Democrat did their fucking job and like just simply played a video during the hearing and was like, hey, this person who's standing on stage next to you at the fucking QAnon conference with General Flynn is speaking in tongues. Do you endorse this? Because you were paid to fucking be there. Like, what the fuck? I am so upset with the complacency of elected Democrats who just let this shit happen. Like, they did their, I think, normal, like, 30-second sound bites for fucking MSNBC and CNN
TikTok
thing. But they didn't do the fucking research. Like, they didn't actually know how fucked up of a crazy man Kash Patel is. And his associates are fucking 1,000 times worse than most Americans have ever been exposed to. And I have no doubt that if that shit was simply played on a fucking screen during these Senate hearings, that more Americans would have been fucking absolutely out. And I'm not talking about Democrats. I'm talking about like people who just flip through the fucking television for 10 seconds, see people speaking in tongues, claiming to be speaking in the words of God, like God is channeling through them, actively speaking from a fucking stage. That is heretical, no matter what fucking religion you are. And Kash Patel was standing there like, yeah, we're going to Valhalla. Like, this is the crazy fucking world we live in now.
It's fucking idiocracy.
As Logan Roy in Succession once said, these are not serious people. And instead of talking about his children, we're talking about the people that Donald Trump won, but also who he has picked, because he's picked sycophants that won't say no. And the only adult that I have seen in there is the Treasury Secretary, Bessent, who keeps threatening to punch people in the face. That's the adult.
He's
That's
the one who wants to fight Elon, right?
He did. Well, I think he hit Elon, and then he threatened to punch.
No, that was Elon's kid, silly. He let him punch him. Elon wanted him to punch him in the face.
You know, it's funny.
Okay. So this is the craziest thing about the year so far for me, is that it's only been 9 months. It feels like it's been 8 fucking years.
Yeah.
There has been so much ignorant shit that we have talked about, and it's only been 9 months. I mean, Elon's fucking kid punching him. Oh,
well, first of all, Elon's kid did not punch him in the face.
No.
Scott Bessent probably, I mean, I don't know, but probably punched him in the face because the other thing about these people is they leak like a sieve because they all are so power hungry themselves that they want to talk to the Maggie Habermans of the world and all the national correspondents because they want to give them the juicy bit of information. And so you find these things out that there are like fist fights in the West Wing and like shit like that, which it's like,
I think the ballroom is going to be like basically a UFC
Brawler's
ring,
Ballroom.
right?
Maybe that's where they'll have the MMA fights, but
fuck. And that's like a year away.
Yeah.
Ugh.
I mean, it's going to get pretty gross.
It's going to get so gross.
I can't help but laugh because I am so fucking frustrated. Like as a threat analyst, right, who has spent the last, I don't know, what feels like a week. It hasn't been a week, but since Charlie Kirk was
5 days.
Murdered,
5 days.
5 days.
I have spent virtually every waking hour responding to friends of mine who are fearful of their own lives, not because of some exaggeration, but because the threats being thrown around from the right are overwhelming and serious and touching countless Americans. And at the same time that like Charlie Kirk's death has spun up everyone who's watching on Fox News and all of these fucking boomers who are, you know, Facebook tough guys, like, and that's a fucking problem. At the same time, we've got Stephen Miller fucking talking about how he's going to go after leftist, quote, air quotes, leftist organizations because the Democrats are being branded by this fucking White House as a terrorist organization. That has implications for every American, not just leftists, not just liberals, not just Democrats. Like this administration wants to brand one of the two political parties as a terrorist organization. And they're building concentration camps. We haven't even talked about the concentration camps in like a fucking month, right? Like, I mean, that's how crazy shit is getting in this country.
Insane. It's fucking insane.
I mean, if we go down this path, right, like it starts with liberal organizations and groups, but then it just ends up going to anybody who doesn't agree with them, which is why we have to stay organized and we have to stay coordinated. We have to stick together because if we splinter, it is far easier to pick this stuff apart if people don't stick together than if we all stand up and say no. And I know we've said it before. I say it all the time, but like there are more of us than them. Like if we stick together and fight back, there are more of us. We have to take the House back next year. Like the Senate's a tough call. Maybe we could do it, but we need the House. We need the House for oversight reasons, for subpoena power, and also just so they can't pass terrible shit.
You're fucking idiots.
A real voice in budget negotiations, and you know, basically like give everybody a bit of a breather because this is a lot. But this is why we started this show. You know, we knew what we were getting into. We knew it was going to get bad, and it is getting bad. But we signed up for it, and we're not going anywhere. And we hope the audience stays with us as well. We've got big things we're going to be announcing soon that we're hoping is going to help to fight back against this stuff. But it only works if you, the audience, sticks with us, which you have, and you have been great. Our episode last week was, I think, at least from an audio perspective, the most downloaded show we've had in a long time, because I think people need this information and they're finding it valuable. So, this is where I transition into my pitch, which always feels weird in these conversations. Chris did the great one last week. I actually just finished listening last week's episode this morning, and I was like, damn, I had no idea where he was going last week when he was like setting up for the pitch. But it's true. Like, we can't do this without audience support. I mean, it feels weird to always be asking, but it's true. We are trying to build a media company. We want to build more shows that attract different audiences and help educate people on what's going on so that we can win in 2026 and then take back the White House in 2028. So, even for just $6 a month, that helps us a lot.
Yeah.
And you can do that on Substack at going findoutpodcast.substack.com. You can also, Luke is modeling one of our shirts
biceps
today.
don't come with it though.
No, you don't get the guns. No guns. But we have these shirts that are union made in America because we want to live our values and we want to support fair wages. So, the shirts cost a couple bucks more, but you're supporting American jobs. You can buy those at findoutpodcast.com. Well, guys, I know we have a hard stop at the top of the hour. I think we've run through all this stuff now. One other thing. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had Brian Tyler Cohen on talking about an event called the Fuck Around Find Out 50, which is a fundraising event for the Yes on 50 gerrymander ballot initiative in California. It's actually tonight meaning Tuesday night, from 7:30 p.m. Eastern time till about 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. You will get to hear me interview cast of The West Wing, which is kind of crazy. So I'll ask President Bartlett.
He's really scared.
Yeah, he's not gonna. Me? I'm scared.
You.
Well, I mean, Martin Sheen, man. Like,
I would.
the dude's an icon.
We haven't seen Tim get starstruck yet, but
Apocalypse
Could be
Now.
coming. You never know.
Apocalypse Now. Like, I mean, that movie's crazy.
Quick,
and actually,
overrated movie.
Luke.
So Apocalypse.
By the way, do you know he really punched the mirror? Do you know he really did that?
I did know that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
So my old boss at Vietnam Veterans America and Trump during the first presidency got in like a really the dumbest fight ever over Apocalypse Now. And it was like months later, it finally fucking leaked out and it was covered in like Rolling Stone, Vanity Fair and stuff. My boss, my hero, Rick Weidman, who has been involved in veteran advocacy since he got out of the army in the late 60s or early 70s. And it was because fucking Trump didn't understand the difference between Agent Orange, which is a toxin that has affected multiple generations of Americans, not just Vietnam vets, but it causes things like spina bifida, horrific
bad shit.
I thought it was the shit that he put on his face. I thought that was Agent Orange.
and I think it's Spike Lee who is always called Donald Trump Agent Orange. And he battled with one of the most influential Vietnam veteran advocates about what napalm was versus Agent Orange. And I'm reminded of this, not just because you bring up Apocalypse Now, and that was the movie that apparently Trump was like, it's a good movie. And my boss was like, actually, it stigmatized the fuck out of Vietnam vets, but whatever. Donald Trump it was just fucking last week that the dude tweeted out a picture of him using an AI generated image to make it look like he was, in the fucking movie Apocalypse Now, and that he, the American president, the commander in chief, was declaring war on an American city. And in the background of that AI generated image, again, that the president of the United States posted, that city was fucking burning.
Yeah, it was Chicago, right?
Yep.
Right. And we've forgotten about that. Like I haven't thought of that until you fucking mentioned Apocalypse Now, right?
Well,
like the fucking absurdity that we are dealing with today.
I know. Well, I'm probably not going to bring up Apocalypse Now then. That seems like maybe I'll focus on somebody. So, the fact that he's actually played the president twice. He's been the chief of staff in a movie once, American President, which is a very not real movie, but I enjoyed it. But we also have Bradley Whitford, who's another one that that guy's been in a million things. I think the first thing I saw him in was he was the bad guy in Billy Madison, I think. Is that right? I think that's right. And then obviously he was in The West Wing and in all kinds of stuff. I think he's in The Handmaid's Tale now too. He's like a bad/good. Someone told me he was like both good and bad, and I haven't watched the show, so I don't know what that means. So I don't want to ruin it for anybody. But yeah, I might get a little starstruck. And Dule Hill is supposed to be in there too. So yeah, you're gonna get to watch me interview celebs. It's one thing to interview politicians. That's fine. Movie stars like Martin Sheen, like
pretty different.
And they each, according to the schedule, have what, like a minute to speak, each one of them?
So we were also supposed to have Mary McCormick, who played like an aide, an advisor on it. She was also in the movie Deep Impact. She's been in a bunch of stuff. And she unfortunately can't, for scheduling reasons, be there. So, but my joke last week was I was going to have 4 very well-known actors that had to split 10 minutes between them. So now I have 3 very well-known actors in 10 minutes. So I feel a little bit better. I'm also just trying to figure out how I actually start a conversation
I believe
like
in
that.
you, Tim.
Well, thank you.
Good luck, buddy.
So anyways, we'll wrap there. Thank you, everybody. Again, if you can support us, we'd really love it. Thank you for being with us. And I think Thursday, well, we're trying to figure out the rest of our schedule this week. We are at some point this week going to be releasing an interview with Dan Kleben, who is the founder of the Maine Beer Company and is the most recent person to enter the Senate race to challenge, not tackle. We're not, no violence. Challenge Susan Collins and hopefully defeat her once and for all. So thanks for sticking with us, folks. We'll be back again soon. Take care.